good.
Greetings and salutations, ladies and gentlemen. Today on Y.A.R.P, we have some special or algorithm friendly coverage, we hope, of the new Star Wars show, Andor. Don't worry, we watched so you don't have to. This is our coverage of episode one. Wyatt, how did you feel? Were you engrossed in the galaxy far, far away?
I feel like I wasted my time.
Yeah. So before we get into the nitty and gritty of this, ladies and gentlemen, this was a 45-minute episode, give or take. Nothing happened. Like this was very boring. Um, every character in the show is basically unlikable. I couldn't really tell you what all is going on. Um, as far as a episode one that's supposed to get you like hooked into a TV show and give you reason to come back, this show does not have it. Um, our working theory is that because they released three episodes in the same day, that they figure most audience members will probably watch all three episodes before they decide whether or not to continue watching the show week after week. Um, but if that was the case and the writers knew that, it feels like they're kind of relying on that because if this had been the single release, I guarantee you there are a lot of people who would not be tuning in for episode two next week.
Yeah, because I was thinking about this while we were watching. Even shows like Mandalorian, they knew how to get the ball rolling for even their episode one. Because remember, where does episode one of Mando season one end?
It's Baby Yoda, isn't it?
Yeah, they ended. He shoots the droid, and we get the beginning connections between Mando and Baby Yoda. That, like,
Yeah.
as much as we don't like that show, it is at the very least effectively digging its hooks into the audience.
Oh, absolutely. And there is not a single moment like that in this show. I can briefly sum up the whole episode for, because it doesn't even take that long to go through it. Cassian is looking for his sister, um, for reasons we don't know, because they don't tell us. And he's having trouble finding her. He runs into some I don't even think they're empire. They're like they keep
They're
referring to them
private
as
security.
company. Yeah, they're private security that I think are under the empire somehow. Like they report to the empire. Anyway, he makes some friends and influences some people, not really. And they get into a fight and he kills them. And the show tries to position that as like, oh, Cassian is in the right. No, he's a fucking murderer. And so, we're supposed to feel sorry for him. It's like, oh, he's a wanted fugitive now. It's like, well, yeah, he fucking killed people. And so he just leaves, and then we get a scene of the company guys. One guy really wants to investigate it, like he's the closest thing we have to a do-gooder, and and he basically gets told to not investigate it by the higher ups. But then
It,
immediately after he's told that, the higher up leaves because he's got to go to a imperial review meeting, and so this guy is going to be put in charge in his absence. And of course, now that he is the guy in charge, he absolutely continues investigating. But they have next to no information to go on. They don't even know it's Cassian. They don't have a name. They don't
it,
seem to have camera footage. They don't
yeah.
have anything.
The only thing they have was when they were checking out, like, I guess with that screen full of like all the lines and stuff, that was supposed to be like almost like a transponder screen, like you're seeing like flight traffic, and they saw that one blip of an unidentified ship. But at the
Yep.
same time, do you like in a galaxy far, far away, where almost getting your hands on a starship is one of the easiest things in the world? Do you know how many unidentified ships would be just flying in and
Well,
out of
and that
anywhere?
one guy who's operating the terminal even kind of brings that up.
Yeah, he says
He's
there's
like
a lot of
he's like
traffic.
that there's a lot of traffic that's going to take a long time, and the guys just like deal with it. And then the only other information that they have is that it's implied that they asked around the brothel or whatever it was, and they got that he's a I forget the Kurlasi
Oh, hold on. If I can just.
Gorlami. He's
He's
Gorlami.
a Gorlami.
Yeah, he's
Uh,
Gorlami. He was looking for a Gorlami and so they know that he's probably a Gorlami male, and that's like the most they have to go on.
I like
And
the idea that that's just what he is now. Like
I
we.
don't care. I literally don't. It's so weird. Like again, we don't know why he's looking for his sister. We don't know anything about his relationship with his sister, which kind of ties into the next point we wanted to bring up. So there are a few flashback sequences in this episode where we get to go back and see Casa as a child. And for those of you who don't remember the film Star Wars Rogue One, um, remember there's a little line, a little quotable, a little soundbite, if you will, from Cassian Andor, where he's kind of having a verbal spat with Jyn Erso, and he implies, fuck it, I'll go a step further. He says verbatim that he has been in the fight of the rebellion since he was 6 years old.
Or even if it's not necessarily the rebellion that this show is trying to elude, he's at the very least been in a fight against the Empire, even if it's just by himself, fighting in his
Yeah,
own
and
way.
and the flashbacks seem to contradict the living shit out of that statement
Yeah,
because
because
he
he
is
looks like
clearly
12.
older than 6 and he's in like this village of people, and his sister looks a little closer to the age of 6. So, yeah, so far that's not lining up at all. I mean, we'll see as we're presented some more information because again, that's another big takeaway is that we're not really presented with a lot of information. There is very little exposition, and I know a lot of people will try to use that as a compliment for the show. But this is episode 1, season 1. Like if you're gonna do exposition, now's the fucking time. We need
Yeah, and
something to go on, and we've got nada.
and it's like how we brought up while we were paused for a tiny bit. Uh, you can do exposition in like a dialogue friendly way. We talked about Reservoir Dogs.
Oh
Uh,
yeah. So good quality dialogue does multiple things at the same time. It serves multiple purposes. It advances the story, but it also tells you information about one of the characters in the conversation or multiple characters in the conversation. All of the dialogue in this show tells you nothing about the characters other than they're just all kind of assholes.
yeah, they're all out for
Basically, like
themselves.
they're all just shitty people who treat each other in shitty ways, and we kind of don't care about any of them. And there's not any real reason to care about any of them. And basically, the gist that we get from all of his interactions is everyone is just kind of fed up with Cassian Andor. Everyone's tired of helping him. So he's basically burned every bridge that he had. He's running out of options. But I presume when the chips are down and he needs the help, it'll be there. So don't worry about that, folks. But one of the things that I forgot to mention about the flashback sequences, they do that annoying tropey thing, right? Where all of these villagers that we're seeing are speaking in a foreign language that we don't understand. But instead of having the subtitles tell you what they are saying so that we get a little bit of storytelling or some backstory or I don't know anything between these characters on screen, no, it just says speaking Gorlami, and it's like,
Yeah,
oh,
and that's really unfortunate because another thing I brought up was, yeah, just because we can't understand what they're saying doesn't mean that like we can't learn through subtitles. It's almost like they're saying that it's impossible
well, they
when.
even do that thing where like he's getting ready to go off on the hunt or whatever with the other village people, and he like turns around to his sister because she's not coming, and he says something
And we'll
that's
never know what that
probably gonna
means.
we'll never know what that was because it's like, oh, he probably said something significant that's gonna be relevant later, but it's like we don't even get what he said.
Yeah, and as it turns out, we were in like the last few seconds of the episode when we paused to talk about that.
Yeah,
Um,
it's like a 45 minute episode, but 5 minutes are credits. So it's
Some
basically 40 minutes and we got very little. I
and
mean, it's
I brought up specifically, it's only like a few scenes, but in Phantom Menace, when Sebulba and Anakin would talk to each other in Huttese, we got the subtitles, and then we understood their rivalry, why they don't like each other. Like it informed what was happening in the story because it would
oh,
then lead up to the pod
absolutely.
race.
Well, and I was hoping some of this backstory, the flashback stuff, would help us with understanding like why he separated from his sister, or why he's looking for his sister, or why he gives a shit, or kind of what happened and why they're not together anymore. None of that is fleshed out or set up in any meaningful way because all of those scenes have no dialogue. It's like we watched a ship crash, and then presumably, based since I'm going solely off of visuals here, in the next flashback scene, it's like they're all painting themselves and kind of gathering equipment. So I'm assuming they're gonna go investigate the down ship. And like one of the other boys that's roughly his age is like, oh hey, we don't want him to come. But then the girl boss leader of the little party is like, no, he can come. And so he starts painting his face too, and then when he goes to leave, his sister's like, "Hey, don't go." And he turns and says something to her,
Yeah,
but again, we don't know what that is
we're
because
just guessing on the idea that she even says
yeah,
"Don't go." For all we know, she said "Good luck."
I'm I'm going off of what's implied by the visuals. I can't say for sure because the show didn't say for sure. So
Yeah,
I hope that's close to what I got here, but I mean, I've watched a lot of TV. I've watched a lot of movies. This isn't my first rodeo, and it's like, man, I get it that the format of watching shows has changed a lot over the years, but episode 1, the pilot, used to mean something. Like those were the make or break episodes because if people didn't like your pilot, your show was fucked. Like it may not have ever gone on to do another episode. So that pilot episode had to matter. There had to be some degree of hook to it. You know, make me interested, make me give a shit about this story and about these characters. And I've got to say, after episode 1, I don't care about anything that's going on or anything that's been presented here. It was really boring, even by Disney Star Wars standards. It was really boring. Um, and that's a shame because I actually really liked Rogue One as far as Disney Wars goes. I feel like it's the best content they've put out. Um,
yeah.
Not specifically because of Andor, but you know,
I mean, Rogue One had. I feel like Rogue One was the closest Disney has ever gotten to capturing not what Star Wars means, but at the very least what Star Wars looks like. If that makes any sense. It does that, or am I just
yeah,
am I?
no, no, I see what you mean. I do. It dealt. It felt like one of those things where it's like at least they kind of got the spirit right, you know, like not all of the characters were good, but there was enough of an ensemble cast in that show that the good ones kind of helped carry the ones that were a little bit lackluster. Like I didn't particularly care about Jyn Erso, I didn't particularly care about Cassian Andor, but I liked K2SO, I liked Donnie Yen, I liked the other guy that was hanging out with Donnie Yen's character. Like those guys were amazing,
Yeah, they
and they really
were.
made the movie for me.
Yeah,
Like,
their dialogue was pretty good. Cause he,
yeah,
especially when he walks out into the rain, is like, I don't need to worry, I've got you. And then the guy follows him. He's like, oh,
yeah. There's a lot of like good moments in that movie that really capture the spirit of Star Wars. Like even if it doesn't match up perfectly, it really hit. And then plus, you know, yeah, I'm one of those guys who jizzed in my pants when I saw the cool Vader scene. Vader being Vader, yeah, that's good shit.
no,
Give me more of that.
no. I the Vader hallway scene. I will compliment the shit out of that. It's why I still go back to it because it's like, man, we have Kenobi, which is a show that has like half of it is supposed to be Vader, and it's just not. He's just not Darth Vader.
No, and none of this even really felt all that Star Warsy to me. Like, I mean, yeah, there's ships, there's droids, there's little aliens, but just
Even
when he's
this.
on the planet, like it doesn't feel like a sci-fi world or universe. It just
Well,
everyone's just kind of being people.
I was actually about to bring up how, if anything, the soundtrack in the very beginning and the look, it was like, wait a second, am I watching Star Wars or am I watching Blade Runner? Because it was very synth heavy and I don't want to say flowing, but it almost did feel it was moving in that direction with the music, and it's just like this isn't Star Wars.
Yeah, it was definitely weird. It was definitely I mean, up until about halfway through the episode, the Boy Scout company man was my favorite character by far. But then there's an awful scene where he comes into the room to admonish his subordinates, and instead of showing, that like, hey, he's really invested in solving this case and he wants to be a good, effective leader, and it's like given the opportunity, he's going to do it the right way. No, he comes out and basically channels his inner Kylo Ren and is just a pouty, whiny bitch. And it's like, oh, never mind. I really liked this guy, but now I don't.
And basically asks too much out of his
Yeah, he
subordinates.
he's asking way too much, giving them way too little to go on. They're telling him the truth, even though it's not what he wants. Hey, we get it, like what you're trying to do. We're just telling you that what you're asking for isn't going to, like, it's not possible. And he basically is just like, "We'll make it happen, make it work." And it's like that's not remotely effective leadership at all. And
Yeah,
because he's not normally the big boss, you would think he would kind of understand where these people are coming from. But there's none of that. There's none of that depth or nuance. Hey guys, I'm one of you. I know it. I know what I'm asking for is a lot, but like, hey, he doesn't try to inspire them or just I don't know. It just everybody's got to be so freaking one dimensional, like everybody, and it's just anytime they try to do nuance, it makes you hate that character even more because they think nuance means making every character an asshole.
yeah, and it also with the cop man, it just feels so odd because when presented with all that information in like a detective story, that would normally mean like, all right, they've given me the information. Now it's my job to piece it all together, to go on the investigation, and he just doesn't do that.
Yeah, and it's weird because I thought we were going to get some of that because technically him even continuing his investigation is already him bending the
Yeah,
because the
the guy
big
told
boss
him
was like,
to
"Hey,
bury it.
no." Yeah, he's like, "Drop it." And so I figured since he's already bending the rules with his boss, maybe he'd be willing to bend the company rules and be like, "Hey guys, look, I know I'm asking you for a lot, but if you'll do this for me, I'll make sure you get that overtime you're asking for." Like that would have been a cool thing to show like, "Hey, he gets it. He's trying to be an effective leader. Like give me something with this guy."
That or we even he's even like more generous with it. Like, do this for me, and I'll make sure the overtime you get is doubled.
Yeah.
And then they're just like, oh fuck yeah, and then they just start tippity tapping away and looking for shit. It's just so, and I think the whole reason why the original guy wanted it buried was because they were in a brothel, which they supposedly don't have in that area.
They're
Uh,
not supposed to be there, I think was what he said. Like they're not supposed to be at the brothel. They're at of the brothels they could have gone to, they went to the expensive one which they shouldn't be able to afford, and they were drinking which they weren't supposed to be doing on duty.
yeah, and they were
So basically
drinking pretty
he
nice stuff, which they shouldn't have been able to afford as well.
right. So he basically gives multiple reasons why this would look bad on the company and create a lot of like potentially bad press. So as much as it's like evil that he's trying to bury this story, like he is actually making a lot of valid points, and the guy just doesn't really seem to acknowledge it.
Yeah, and I believe he even said like if we the more we look into this, like the closer the Empire would take a
Well,
closer
yeah,
look
because
at
the whole
us.
reason that that guy is leaving in the first place is because he's like, I have to go in front of an imperial review board, and talk to them about our crime rates. And this is really bad timing because I'm supposed to tell them like, "Hey guys, we got it all." Because he doesn't want the empire to like come down even on them. So I
Yeah,
don't know. It's
it's just one of those things. I guess. Hopefully, episode 2 will have more to say, and that will actually have some story. Because I don't know how they're gonna find Cassian. Because when
yeah,
we
they literally have nothing to go on.
well, not only that, remember it showed when that weird like spaceship car dealership thing, he pulled out the equivalent of the transponder ID code. So
Yeah,
whatever that ship is now, it's not the same ship to them, because that's the whole thing with transponders. At the very least, from the old EU, is if you change it, the ship is completely different.
yeah. There's no way for them to ID the ship at this point. It's like pulling into a paint shop in Grand Theft Auto. You know, it's like, oh, you've
Yeah,
been repainted. You're a completely new person.
yeah,
So, it'll be interesting to see where it goes. I guess I really hope we do get more in the next couple episodes because, like I said, so far my impression is this is a big old goose egg. There's just nothing going on. I don't care. I'm not invested in any way, shape, or form. And if this was the only episode we had to review, I would honestly say don't bother. Would be
yeah.
my takeaway after this episode. But we'll see.
I think our
We'll give it
takeaway
a
would be
chance.
don't bother before we even watched it.
Hey, come on now. We're trying. We're trying to give this show a fucking chance. It's just the show is not meeting us halfway, okay?
Yeah, we're
The
at the very
show
least holding out the
give
hand.
me give me something to fucking chew on. Give me some reason to try and be invested, and so far I've got absolutely zero.
Yeah,
But like we said in the beginning, we are suffering with this so that, even if you choose not to watch the show, maybe you can enjoy our coverage of the show. We will be back with more coverage of episode 2 and 3. So wish us
so
luck as we
yeah,
continue this horrible journey down the rabbit hole.
yeah. Bye.
Bye.